city. DC, that's where I'm from. 1130 podcast. Dre on wheels, he is the one. Let's get it. Yeah. Who with me? Let's get it. Yeah. No, with me. Yeah. I'm from the city. DC, that's where I'm from. Let's get it. 1130 podcast. Dre on wheels, he is the one.
He the one, nigga. Let's breeze, baby.
Yo, what it do, everybody? It's your man Dre, aka Dre on Wheels. This is episode 53 of the 1130 podcast, Talk Pro Wrestling. What's goody? How everybody doing out there? Appreciate you guys joining me back here for another great episode, you guys, of Talk Pro Wrestling. Good morning, good night, good afternoon to all my listeners all across the world. Appreciate you guys joining me back here on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. It's going to be a great show. If you're listening to me on YouTube and if you're new to the 1130 podcast, man, tune in. It's going to be a great one, you guys, because my guest, he's fun, man, for real. But hit that subscribe button. Also hit the notification bell. Turn on the notifications so you don't miss an episode, you guys. Share it so we can get the 1130 podcast up and out there even more. And don't forget to follow the 1130 podcast on all social media platforms. But you guys, man, we about to get into the show, man, because I got a great guest, you guys, lined up this week. He's going to be my co-host, you guys. I was supposed to have him in last week, but he's going to be my co-host this whole month of May, you guys, here on the Wrestling Podcast, the 1130 podcast, Talk Pro Wrestling. You may have seen him. You may be familiar with him, you guys. He's from Louisiana. He's the co-host of the Dope Discussions with Erica podcast, you guys. That's out every Sunday on YouTube, if you don't know. And also, he's also the co-host, you guys, of the Down 5 podcast, man. It's my guy, Gator Live. Man, he's joining me on the podcast. Before we get to that, shout out my guest who was on last week, Prestige. Thank you very much. But Gator, how's it going, man?
Man, what is going on, dude? Yes, I am joining Dre for the month of May. Man, look, I'm looking forward to this, man. This is gonna be a fun couple of weeks, man. Talking about pro wrestling, some things that both of us love, man, and trying to get into a little bit of the dirt that's going on. Man, look, it's definitely been a wild post-WrestleMania wrestling landscape. So I'm really looking forward to kind of discussing that with you on these next couple weeks here.
Hey man, we're gonna get all into it because yes, it have been a wild, crazy week since after WrestleMania. We're gonna get into everything, you guys. We got WrestleMania Backlash that's coming up this Sunday. We're gonna throw some predictions around. We're also gonna chat about some trending topics that's going around in the wrestling world, you guys. But man, Gator, man, what's going on with you, man? I think we ain't chat on the podcast since probably like before Mania. But what you been up to, man?
Man, I've been doing my normal thing, man, trying to hold it down on the Down 5 podcast that you see every Saturday on YouTube, holding it down on Dope Discussions with Erica every Sunday on YouTube. Just trying to do my thing, man, and trying to work, driving Uber, doing all kinds of stuff, managing businesses, reputation in the daytime, all kinds of craziness, man. I feel like I got more jobs than a Jamaican, you know? Look, they gonna start calling me the Heath Slater of the podcast world.
Hey, that's cool, man. That's cool. You staying busy, man. That's what's up.
Oh, man.
I like treating you though.
Yeah, man, it's treating me good, man. I'm blessed. Look, you can't be more blessed than what I'm doing right now, man. Getting to get on with good people, man, and discuss something I love, which is pro wrestling, my dude.
Hey, man, we're going to get into it. That's what's up, man. I'm doing great, man. I'm excited to be here, you guys, this week on the podcast with everyone, and especially my man Gator. Is always exciting to chop it up with you each and every time we get together, man. But we're going to indulge and dive into everything. First, though, we're going to dive into some trending topics that's going around this whole past week in pro wrestling in general. First and foremost, did you see the Booker T documentary on A&E this past Sunday?
You know what? I have not watched it in its entirety, man. I got caught on that Brian Pillman one, and
man, the Brian Pillman man is good, also, man.
Man, that one's amazing, dude. But yeah, I haven't caught all the Booker T one, man. But I've been hearing some rumblings about how people felt about that thing, man.
Yeah, the big story, you know, surrounding that, because I didn't see it. I just kind of like saw it not too long ago. It was cool, you know. And most of the A&E documentaries is kind of like I already been, you know, seeing the stories or heard the backstage stories of these guys because they had WWE home videos, of course. But it's real cool that they're doing stuff like that. But the Booker T one caught a lot of fire this past Sunday, or well, Monday, the next day, and Tuesday, because they cut out the feud that he was going against Triple H when Booker T won the Battle Royal by eliminating The Rock, I believe. And yeah, he had a spot at WrestleMania 19, which is one of my favorite WrestleManias. Took on Triple H for the World Heavyweight Championship, and everybody was like, yo, man, why did they cut out this part? Because of course they went from talking about him, shucking and well, not necessarily sucking and jabbing, but it is what it is, being entertaining to, now he's World Heavyweight Champion and, with Shamil and King of the Ring. So they cut out a big part. So, you say you didn't see it. What was your thoughts on the part that they cut out because of him and the Triple H feud?
So we got to remember what was going on around this time in the WWE, man. I mean, you still had this whole sense of, oh, we're going to push the envelope as far as we can push it. And when you watch when you watch the entire feud, you do feel the racist undertones, in Triple H's promos, and it seemed like they were really kind of keying in on those things. Of course, that type of storyline does not age well, especially in the age of BLM and all those things. Yeah. So I could understand them removing it. However, I always have an issue with revisionist history, whether it be revisionist history from those that may be non-melanated or revisionist history in a scenario like this. I think they should have told the entire story of that. They should have kept that feud because it was one of the more notable feuds that Booker T had. I mean, any WrestleMania feud is going to be a notable feud, man. And I think this kind of points to the fact that we live in a culture where we are very apt to just, cancel something and tuck it under a rug and forget about it rather than deal with what was going on. And yeah, there was a lot of edginess that was going on in that particular feud, and some even that was intentionally pushing those buttons for people to get people invested. That's what you're supposed to be doing. Heck, Roddy Piper back in the day used to come in there and have blackface when he was wrestling Bad News Brown. He hit Jimmy Snuka upside the head with a coconut, for goodness gracious. So these are things that they were never afraid to push the racist issues in the WWF, WWE in order to gain a pop and gain ratings and get people invested, all the way to the territories they used to do that. I mean, when you think of the days of Junkyard Dog down in the territories and how they used to do some of the things that they did with him and the Freebirds and them, man, look, it is just something that happens. And I feel like it sucks that they had to pull that out of that documentary. And it was so conspicuously pulled out of that documentary.
Mm-hmm. Like, man, that, like you said, that was one of the key moments, man, because once he came in and, he was with the NWO and before that, feuding with Stone Cold and, that whole thing and everything, man, like that was a key moment in his career. They even kept the part when they even talked about the viral moment when he said the N-word, back in the days when he was, with the tag team. So like, yeah, they could have kept it in, but, with Triple H, I know they weren't going to keep it in. And then they're taking out a lot of, content from the network on Peacock, all the racial stuff. So, it's crazy. It's real crazy. The documentary is good. So, hey, man, shout out to Booker T. Real for real. Another trendy thing that's going on right now, you guys, you talked about WrestleMania and what the post-WrestleMania have been. At WrestleMania, we seen Bray Wyatt take on Randy Orton, and which was a kind of weird matchup in itself in the after effect, though. But the reason everyone may have not seen Bray Wyatt or The Fiend, whatever you want to call him, on WWE TV is because he's dealing with mental health issues after the death of his close friend, Brody Lee. So, he came back WrestleMania. Vince told him, yo, man, you don't look too good. So he's taking more time off. And, man, mental health is really, really, really big, especially in this time right now when we can't get to, people and we so distant and everything like that, and we all got to do it virtually stuff. So, man, that's really sad to hear, because man, we all love the Brody. That was kind of like really sudden. We wasn't no one expecting that, and me personally though, in the last couple of weeks since WrestleMania, I kind of like been wondering, where has Bray been? He popped up on that post Raw, but we haven't really seen him since.
Yeah, and I think that they did that just to kind of almost give a little bit of a nod to the character. I hate that he's going through that right now. I love anybody who knows me knows that I'm a huge, huge Bray Wyatt fan. Not having him around sucks, and I don't care how much you push Alexa Bliss to be a replacement for that type of gimmick. It's still not Bray Wyatt. It's still not The Fiend. It's still not, he is legitimately a genius. And the problem with geniuses is that their psyche can be a little bit, more on the sensitive side. And not saying he's a sensitive person for trying to deal with the death, but saying that those things affect him more because he's more connected to things that will drive emotion. So I hate to see it happening with him, man. I wish him the best. I send prayers out to him and the family, man, because I hate to see anybody going through it, but that does stress the fact that mental health is so important, man. Mm-hmm. Like, we have to really start, reaching out to our people and asking, hey, man, are you okay? How many people reached out to him? But you listen to his heartfelt tribute, man, to Brody. I mean, I don't know if you listened to the New Days podcast. It was such an emotional thing that they put it on the WWE YouTube channel, just kind of a reflection on Brody. And they don't really do that for talents from other federations. Technically, he was from another federation at the time, but you could hear how much his death affected people. So Bray Wyatt, his road brother, for years down the line, man, it had to have affected him. So shout out to Bray, man. I'm looking forward to seeing him back on TV, but take your time, brother. Make sure you get well. Make sure you get, ready to go hit us with some more genius later down the line, man.
Yeah, man. Can't wait to have Bray back. His mental health is really, really, really serious. And then also his brother got released from the WWE just not too long ago. So, it's a whole lot right there. And also you mentioned, with Alexa Bliss, she holding the fork down right there. I'm kind of trying to still understand what's going on with it. But
what do you think of this character? I gotta ask you the question, man. What do you think of this character? I see where they're going. Uh-huh. Don't get me wrong. I see where they're going. But they're taking way too long to get there. Yeah. Because you've kind of already established the Fiend character. You've already kind of established the mythos. So when you bring in a character like Alexa's Lilith character, and it's like, okay, well, where's it going? Who's she targeting? Where that needs to happen like yesterday. But it seems like they've drawn it out a little bit more. Sometimes you can draw things out and build suspense. Yeah. In this scenario, you're drawing it out and making it a little bit more boring. So I'll be interested to see what's going to happen with this thing.
Yeah, I'm interested all the way. You talked about, like how you saying, with Alexa Bliss, where's this going? Who is she targeting? This past Monday on Raw, I didn't quite understand it until it blew up on social media, and I was like, okay, well, that happened. I mean, I didn't get that out of it, that Alexa Bliss just used some force of magic powers to have Shayna Baszler go out, and that was the way that, because that was the first time we've seen Alexa Bliss in any involvement with any other woman on the roster in a while. So it's taking some time to get to where they're going with this. And my beliefs, I believe they still had a plan to somehow have Alexa come up with some type of monster or whatever to maybe come back or go against Bray Wyatt. But since he's out right now, they're just and Alexa did really great prior to WrestleMania, and this whole thing that she's been doing with him. I guess they decided to have her just go solo and see where it goes. And I don't
know.
Man,
you know what I'm afraid of? I'm so afraid that she's going to become Lilith. Like, wow. I'm so afraid that they're going to put her in like the Fiend type mask, and that's what it's going to be. I don't want female Fiend. I think the Joker and Harley type of relationship that she and Fiend had before was great, but I don't want to see a full turn into a female Fiend. That, to me, it feels almost like overkill, and really you're killing not only her character, but you're killing the Fiend character if you do that.
Yeah, I'm not really too big in the whole DC Comics, but I did get a lot of references about what Bray Wyatt and Alexa Bliss is doing, Harley, and stuff like that. I don't want to see a Fiend character. She's good at what she's doing right now, but I haven't seen Alexa Bliss, like I said, mess with any other women on the roster. So this kind of interaction on Monday, that was like the only interesting thing. Besides, Jinder Mahal is back, but that was the only interesting thing. So I love Alexa. Just I really want to see where's it going with this. So,
and please don't have her feud with Shayna.
Yeah.
I would rather her feud with Sonya Deville. Please don't let her feud with Shayna. This is not a good move.
Yeah, you're right about that. Anybody else besides Shayna Baszler? We're gonna move on, you guys, from another trending topic. Last week, you guys, we talking about killing us, man. Last week on Friday Night SmackDown, in my opinion, what was going on though? Like, we had Throwback SmackDown though, but we didn't get go ahead.
No. Pretty much, that's what it was. I mean, just go ahead. I was just saying, it's pretty much what it was.
Yeah, we had Throwback SmackDown, but we had a '80s intro. We had the present stage. The referee shirts were in 2006, 2005, and Michael Cole and Pat McAfee was dressed like they were in the early '90s. What was going on here? And why couldn't we get the fist? Like that was WTF right there, all the way.
Right. Can I say something though? Just to reference what you just said. I'm always big on their announcers and their things like that. And I think Corey Graves is pretty good at what he does, man. Tom Phillips was pretty good. They replaced him. I mean, I thought Joe was great. Of course, I thought Joe was great in that role. But can we give shots out to Pat McAfee, man? I think Pat McAfee was born for this industry. He was a punter, for years, but I think he was born to be in the WWE, man. I mean, from the announcing capabilities, he's a natural heel announcer in the vein of a Jesse Ventura. And yeah, I said it, I went there with it. But he's also a natural in the ring. He knows how to push buttons. He knows how to get pops and get jeers. He's just a natural, man. I got to give a shout out to Pat McAfee, man. Now that we mentioned the announce team and their retro gear on this last episode.
Yeah, I love Pat McAfee and what he's doing right now. He's really in tune to what he's doing. He's always kind of like standing up. Every chance they get and they show, what's going on in the ring, you can kind of like see Pat McAfee in the back standing up and Michael Cole just sitting down. So it's like he's really in tune. And he loves what he's doing, man. He really do. Speaking of SmackDown and that Throwback SmackDown, we got Cesaro, of course, going up against Roman Reigns and stuff. We got that whole feud going on. But do you think Cesaro is ready for to be Universal Champion, or is he ready for Roman Reigns? Before you say that though, because the reason why I asked that, when he came out on SmackDown, and of course. Prior to that, Daniel Bryan been trying to get Cesaro Universal Championship match, but Roman Reigns said, "You know what? I'll take on DB, and that'll be your last match." That was it. Cesaro came out there this past Friday on SmackDown and was just like, "I ain't got time for you, Roman." And what he was saying really didn't make sense, because like
No.
This whole story is really, surrounded by you going after or you getting an opportunity at a championship that a lot of people would like to, like for you to have. So, do you think really Cesaro's ready? He's athletic wise, yes, but is he ready for that?
So some people get into these internet darling scenarios, man, where I was one of those people who thought for a long time that, why isn't Cesaro getting the push?
Mm-hmm.
Why isn't he getting that main event push and da 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 da? I see why.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and this is not to take anything away from Cesaro's athletic ability. He is, I'd say, in the top 10 of wrestlers worldwide. Although he's got to come up with a new finisher, man. That neutralizer, you cannot be a badass with the neutralizer. Yeah. Okay, and that was, that was perfectly on display when he was trying to put the neutralizer on the Usos and on Roman Reigns. That's not a badass finisher. Mm-hmm. It looked very uncomfortable. It was done incorrectly, but it just did not look good.
Yeah.
But Cesaro in general, he's a great baby face. I just don't see him as the top baby face. Like, I can't see him in a main event program and take him seriously as being a genuine contender or a genuine possibility to take that world title. I feel almost like he's just fodder for a heel champion until they can build up someone on that heel champion's level. Unfortunately, that's just kind of what it is. I love Cesaro though. I love him. I loved him in a tag team with Sheamus. The Bar was probably one of the best things that they ever did. But I just can't see it, man. I can't see him taking the belt off the head of the table. I can't see it.
Yeah, I can't see it. The neutralizer, yeah, not the best finisher, but it really works on guys like Seth Rollins, light guys, where they can easily reverse it or something like that. So that works on, with that. But man, Cesaro, had great matches like with John Cena. I remember like the open challenge where John Cena came out and he challenged Cesaro. Big, great matches Cesaro had. He needs a mouthpiece. He needs like a Paul Heyman. Who? We don't know. Maybe, but he needs someone to talk for him. And, I think everybody, when they see Cesaro, they think of Jason Statham. So it's like, but yeah, so I think he needs a mouthpiece, but in the ring, he can go. He can go.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely, man. He's amazing in the ring. His in-ring's not the problem. Although again, like I said with the neutralizer, I think, you know what, when they had the segment with him and the Usos and Roman Reigns, when he's, giving neutralizers all around, I could deal with the neutralizer as his finisher. But in a moment like that, you got to be hitting some people with some DDTs or with something other than the neutralizer, because it made it not look, because you'd have to literally cradle somebody up and drop them. And it almost took away from the intensity of that babyface fire moment that he was having at that moment. So it's just like, maybe you would have did better just clotheslining folks. Hey, he would have did better if he would have put up the Usos in swings, like swung each one around 5 times, then dropped them and swung another one around 5 times. I think it would have built up momentum. The neutralizer just felt like it did exactly what it says, neutralize the momentum that he was getting on that babyface fire, man.
Yeah, you gotta come up with another finisher, man. Something that could be very instant and be very impactful, I guess, for the fans to pop when they return, man.
He's got one of the sickest European uppercuts in the game. I would love to see him just use that as like a foul finisher, almost like a bro kick.
Yeah, he do got the little pop-up uppercut. So I guess he can, make that his default finisher. That would be great. That would.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of SmackDown, we just mentioned the Usos. We got, I think it was Jimmy Uso that just returned this past Friday night on SmackDown. So do we got the bloodline or do we not? What's going on? Is Jimmy, in with it or is he not with it? He told Roman, I'm not anybody's bitch, all that stuff like that. So, where you think it's going now? I mean, I said this when he came out on SmackDown, man. I've been answering every other guest this question. Well, what's your thoughts on when Uso will come back? Is he gonna fall in line? Is he not? So he's back now. So what you think was gonna happen now?
I mean, he's got to. I mean, I think he just naturally has to fall in line at this point. You don't gain anything by having him feud with Jay. And you've already done Uso versus Reigns feud. So, I don't see it really making sense for them to go over that type of feud again. It just makes sense to bring the Usos back in, even though you have one that may be a little bit more reluctant. I do like a little bit of that tension between the Usos and maybe using that, as kind of like a part of the storyline, but to make it a real feud between the two, I just don't see it being or working or having much interest in it, to be honest. I think just having that bloodline scenario going and getting stronger by the week, I think that's probably the best way to go. And maybe just, tease tension. And, when it comes down to it, he sides with the family and he sides with the bloodline, and they officially cement that stable. I think that's what we're probably going to see.
Okay. Hey, man, I'm all for it. Let's keep the Usos together because we got we're gonna get into WrestleMania Backlash in a bit, but we got Dominic and Ray going after the SmackDown Tag Team titles at WrestleMania Backlash, which I really want Dominic and Ray to win, because then I want the Usos to challenge them, because we have the brothers versus the father and son. So I think that's really, 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 really cool. Really cool. But you guys, we're gonna move on to the last trending topic, you guys. Bobby Lashley and Drew are going to be in a triple threat match at WrestleMania Backlash for the WWE Championship. That's going to be on the line and stuff. Bobby Lashley, Drew got history, man. They go back to Impact. They got great history, though. Do you feel like Drew or Bobby is a draw for the WWE?
So I don't think either one of them is the draw that the WWE wants. They want Drew to be that draw, though. And I think that he's as solid as he is and as good as he is. I think that they've neutralized, and I use that word again, kind of neutralized the badass Drew McIntyre character that they had going. I think we said this one time before. I think I mentioned it when we were on with Whip. Shout out to Whip.
Yeah.
Come out in the kilt all the time and the sword, and every time he comes out, instead of having the leather jacket, that badass persona that he had, because now it's starting to become a caricature of itself. So now Drew is, I'm the fighting Scotsman now, all the time, instead of just being a badass. I mean, I would rather see that. I love what Bobby's doing. I love what MVP is doing, actually. But, man, I don't see either one of them being what the WWE wants. But I don't think there's anybody to take that spot in the company that's coming up right now. Unfortunately, Drew's about the best they got. I mean, but if you're going to do that, you may as well keep it on Bobby for a while, until you build somebody. I mean, but who do they build at this point?
That's interesting to see where it goes. Drew, of course, fought a long time, to get this spot back and to have this spot here. I love them, beginning, before the whole 3MB and stuff like that, which was still okay. But when Drew came back, man, he was, like you said, straight badass, like if anybody don't want to be here, you can get out right now. And he was just badass Drew. And it's like, now it's like, and then when he became champion and then lost it to Randy, but, eventually won it back, I think, I feel bad for Drew at this point, because it's like, did he really accomplish? I don't know. Like, I don't want to say the word accomplished, though, because it's like we didn't got the fans there to really tell him how good a job, is he really doing. I think the Black community, all of us wanted to see Bobby Lashley become champion for a long time. You know, whether it was Bobby Lashley versus Brock, whoever, like we wanted to see Bobby, you know, become champion. So, and MVP is doing a damn thing, but you know, like with them two are the main attraction for Monday Night Raw. I don't think that is a big enough draw, you know, than what Roman Reigns, of course, got over on SmackDown.
I mean, they're gonna have to pull Lesnar out the hat. You know, I mean, because the big thing is that Drew is good, and that's his downfall. I knew that it was going to be a problem for Drew when they started having him come out at the beginning of every Monday Night Raw and cut a 10-minute promo. Because what you're doing is you're trying to get him, now you see him as the top spot, and you're homogenizing him, and you're having him come out and talk people into the building, like, well, not talk them into the building, but talk to the audience and give narrative to the audience like Cena used to do, you know, or like your other top baby faces would do. And it starts sounding like the same speech every week. And every week it just becomes, like I said, it becomes homogenized. It becomes something where it's like, oh, Drew, you're boring now. You know, it's not that badassery that it was before. So, yeah, I mean, like you said, I love seeing Bobby as champion. But even with him, you got to pull the Lesnar card at some point. You got to have Brock, or, I mean, who else can you have come out against Lashley at this point? There's nobody, you know, unfortunately.
I feel as though also Bobby Lashley lost his cool once they broke up the Hurt Business.
Yeah.
You know, like Bobby Lashley was really cool. Everything was just so cool. You know, these guys were going around, you know, in suits. You know, they were all champions and stuff. And then at a drop of a dime, they just split them up. And, you know, like.
Man, I hate when they do that with factions, man. Especially a faction as cool as the Hurt Business was. Because they earned that, man. They earned having, you know, because even bringing in Cedric Alexander and how that went down, you know, that was an amazing thing. Only to have Cedric Alexander do what he did to Shelton Benjamin, like what? Like what was the purpose of that scenario now? I don't know, man. I think they had a great thing going with the Hurt Business, man, and I'm sad to see it go. That was the most senseless breakup that I've seen in a very long time. Like legit, they had Bobby Lashley like, I could do this myself. Why are you guys out here, you know, trying to almost come across as like a baby face going into WrestleMania, and then literally going in and putting a bounty on? That was confusing. And I felt like they just broke away the Hurt Business just because somebody in the back said, you know what? We just need to have Bobby Lashley by himself. And if you guys don't know, I'm trying to give the best Kevin Kelly impersonation or Bruce impersonation I could possibly put out there. But yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it one bit.
I don't like it not one bit. I don't know why they broke them up. It's like, man, black folks can't have nothing for too long, man. Too long and too good, man.
Right.
It's
exactly.
Crazy. It's
but
crazy.
I mean, hey, you know, we all about having them black stables though. Just ask NXT.
Hey man, speaking of NXT, I'm so glad you brought that up. Speaking of NXT, man, and also MVP, the MVP of this week's past NXT, man, was the referee that was involved, I believe, in a matchup with I cannot think of Austin Theory was going up against man, I can't even
Karrion Kross.
Karrion Kross, boom, there you go. You know what I'm talking about, right? When the referee dropped down and went over top, man, and he was just rocky after that. It blew my mind, man. It blew my mind. So
shout out to Karrion Kross. So one of the things that I've loved about Killer Kross for years is he's intense. He has that size. He's always had top star written all over him. He's one of those people that I think he needs to leave. I usually say, keep them in NXT. Keep them in NXT. He's one of those people, I'm like, send him to SmackDown. Let him run something, because he can literally step from NXT into the main event picture on any one of those brands. He really can. He's intense. He's got a hot valet. He can speak. He can talk. He can really get people like invested. He sells well, but he also looks brutal in everything that he puts out there. Man, and his gimmick is awesome too. Yeah. So man, I can't wait to hear that tick tock on the Raw clock. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, I can see it happening soon, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I love him, man. I love him. I really dig his interest, though. His interest, like you say, is intense. You know, come down the ring real slow, and then the next minute, you know, he's just in the ring, just going crazy. You know, and I love Scarlett. You know, she
Scarlett, yeah.
I love it, man.
Everyone has something to say, a story to tell. We make it easy to share yours. So let's talk.
Regardless of your podcast setup, hit record, and from there, whether your podcast reaches 10 people or 10 million, we can help you get heard wherever listeners are.
And who knows, maybe even quit your day job.
But no matter who hears you, it's about connecting and sharing something from your perspective.
It's about having a voice and using it without anything standing in your way. Say it all with Anchor.
But you guys, man, we're going to move on here on the podcast. AEW last week, they had Blood and Guts. Did you check that out?
I checked out some of it, man, but you know, my biggest thing was checking out the most controversial part of the of the pay-per-view.
That old night was very interesting, to say the least. I found out, of course, once. I mean, I heard about that. That was just a one-match show, but and then the first, hour was pre-taped or taped or whatever, and the finish was weird. I look back at it, and for the last 10 minutes to just be on top of the cage and everybody just to be laying flat or just sitting up there just looking up, it was pretty weird, and all the camera angles and everything. So I don't know.
It makes me wonder what happened, because usually when you see something like that, something got changed on the fly, or something didn't work the way it was supposed to work. Maybe a gimmick didn't work out the way it was supposed to work out. Or maybe somebody was supposed to, was late on a cue, and it just, usually something like that happens. I don't know if the AEW producers just were, because it looked like that whole segment could have been like fast forwarded and been shown in normal time. It just looks like everything dragged, and that's what made the whole crash pad thing more egregious. Because once you see this, you're like, okay, what the hell?
Exactly.
Like, yeah,
it
man.
was crazy, man. It was crazy. And then this past week, I did not like the Pinnacle out there. Inner Circle came out, and they kind of like did the old school Stone Cold thing, spraying them with the beer, but they sprayed them with water. I was like, oh, come on, guys. Couldn't be original. Like, I didn't like it, not one bit, but I liked that Miro becoming TNT champion. I think that was a kind of cool thing. So
yeah, I think that was really cool, although that was something that I think was kind of a long time coming anyway, but I also believe that was something that kind of seems like it just popped up out the blue. Mm-hmm. Because you got somebody, and we discussed this before when we were talking about, we literally sat on this podcast a few months ago and talked about Darby Allin and Sting. Mm-hmm. And I remember saying during that thing, I don't see Darby Allin as a future superstar. And why are they trying to get the rub from Sting off of Darby Allin? To be completely honest, him holding that TNT title, it didn't make sense to me after a while anyway. When you go from Cody Rhodes to Brody Lee to Darby Allin, Miro makes more sense, because I think that him, having that brutish type of, TNT champion makes a little bit more sense than Darby Allin. Now, where does Darby Allin go from here, though? I don't see, because this just seemed like it came out of the blue. So I don't know. It was just weird to me.
I'm interested to see where it goes. It seemed like Darby Allin is AEW's version, WWE's version of Mick Foley. That's basically what it is, and falling down the steps and doing all this, hardcore stuff like that. And I always was really intrigued about the relationship between them two. Like, Why Sting, with Darby, and I didn't get it, but hey, you got the title off of him. Congratulations to Miro. So see where that goes, man. See where that goes.
Yeah, and prayers out to Orange Cassidy, man. Because
yes,
you watched that clip. I watched the clip of it, and then I'm sitting there and I'm like, yeah, he's out, like out on his feet, bro. He was like legit. You know what it reminded me of? There was a pay-per-view in WWE a couple years ago where that same scenario happened with Matt Hardy, where you could tell that he was out on his feet. And it's like, yeah, that's exactly what was happening, man. Man, shout out to Orange Cassidy, man.
Yeah, that was really, crazy, because I was watching that, he landed high on his neck. So I was like, okay, it didn't, seem like he got really hurt that bad, but once the referee would start pulling, Pac apart, and I was like, okay, yeah, something is up. And then, because I was fast forward and I watched it, of course, on a delay. I try to watch it, all these wrestling events on a delay.
Right.
The commercials be too much. So fast forward, and I had to rewind back through the commercial, and seeing the doctor out there with him, and they threw up the X and had Kenny Omega hit Pac with the belt, so they both was a double count out and stuff like that. So
right.
That was interesting. That was very, very interesting. So I knew he was hurt. So shout out definitely to Orange Cassidy.
Yeah, man, and this is again, one of those things that I tell people all the time when they tell me wrestling is fake, man. Look, concussive injuries don't just happen when you fall on your head. If your neck whips too hard, your brain stem, all that kind of stuff is susceptible to concussions. And and you could get knocked clean off your feet without getting even hit in your head. So, when you look at it, what happened with him, it just kind of brings to light the fact that, man, when we were watching wrestling in the 80s, these folks was taking steel chairs to the middle of the head. How many concussions went undiagnosed back in the day?
Yeah, right about that, man. So right about that. Hey, but you guys, man, we're going to move on here on Talk Pro Wrestling, you guys. Like I said earlier, we got Wrestlemania Backlash coming up this Sunday, you guys. And before we do some predictions on Wrestlemania Backlash, what's your thoughts on AEW and possibly WWE bringing back fans, maybe at a full capacity with everything going on in the world right now? They starting to, let up with restrictions and stuff.
You miss fans, man. You miss them. You miss the interaction. The fans, some of the best moments in wrestling history have been legitimately bolstered by fan reaction. One of my favorite fan moments of all time is when Miz won the world title and they go out and they pan out to the crowd and there's legit this little girl with this look on her face of evil, like, I hate you. Do you know how much heat that got Miz? It was an amazing thing. The one of the other most memorable ones is when the Undertaker
you stole it. Yes.
Street. And you see the guy, the black guy out there like, what? Man, those are the magical fan interactions. All the way from those moments to simply chanting yes. The WWE and AEW misses their fans, man. I'm excited to see fans back there. I think that the WWE's idea for Thunderdome was innovative, but it's nothing like having real flesh and blood fans in the arena. The other thing that's really interesting about that scenario is most stadiums, not the actual arenas and closed top places, most stadiums are going to 100% capacity. So I would not be surprised to see a lot more open air events in the WWE. How many times have we seen a Raw in an open air stadium? Not very often, but I guarantee you they can go to a lot of these little baseball stadiums and put people in there. Man, it might be a good throwback to some old WCW Stampede days, man. I'm excited about it. And I think Vince McMahon will try to do that because, hey, open air, the more fans, the more money, the better.
Right.
So they're down for that. I guarantee you.
You're right about that, man. I'm excited. WrestleMania had I got the bug back for it. Of course, watching WrestleMania, I was watching some old school stuff before then, and I was just man, like, ooh, like, man, that, you mentioned one of them, like, you took it out of my mouth, man, like, that. Just imagine no fans there and The Undertaker losing at WrestleMania. It wouldn't have been like, that special. But the fact that 1, 2, 3, and you had a guy like, like that just brought it home.
It was the eyes bugging just to like, this is unbelievable.
Exactly.
Man, but those are the magic moments that fans make, man.
Mm-hmm.
The pop for the Hardys at WrestleMania a couple years ago, when you hear the music's pop. I have one of the loudest pops I've ever heard at a WrestleMania.
Yeah, even like a moment goes back to where Dolph Ziggler won the World Heavyweight Championship.
Oh man,
off the place, or just in a match where the fans just invested the 1, 2, 3 just to bring it home is everything. So man, like I can't wait to it, to see where it goes, and we'll be get back to everything. So it's gonna be fun.
Oh yeah,
it's gonna be fun. Man.
Oh yeah, man. I've been watching a lot of those old school. I think I sent you one of the. One of the little clips, man, the other day, this promo from Jim Cornette, man. And even then, back in the day, you could see how fans really affected the product. Just having, those were in like closed areas with maybe like 100, 200 people in the little enclosed little arena, little area. But you can see how the interaction with the audience made that wrestling even better. So just having some flesh and blood fans there, I think is gonna make it. I think it's gonna improve the product.
Yeah, it's gonna be real good to see. Can't wait. But you guys, man, we're gonna move on. We got WrestleMania Backlash coming up this Sunday, and we're gonna throw some predictions down, you guys. So we're gonna see where it goes. And we're gonna start it off. WrestleMania Backlash coming up this Sunday. The card looks really decent. We're gonna start it off. Bianca Belair and Bayley going 1-on-1 with the SmackDown Women's Championship. I'm gonna throw it out there. I think Bianca's gonna retain, but in my opinion, not a popular opinion. I said it probably before. They had to pull the trigger on Bianca. Bianca was hot.
They did
when she came in and everything like that. I personally, me personally, just would have loved to see how it also would have went if she did not win the title at WrestleMania. Of course, Sasha was excited for her. Everybody was. I was. That emotion when she won was everything. But let's see where it goes. And the fact that Bayley is coming back in, even though she sort of should have been basically the third host of WrestleMania, because Titus and Hogan wasn't entertaining at all. But,
exactly.
But Bayley, Bianca, I got Bianca. Who you got?
I got Bianca too, but I just to answer what you were saying earlier, I think they were afraid. The reason they made sure that they put that belt and pulled the trigger on Bianca this year is I think they were afraid of having the Rhea Ripley effect. When Rhea Ripley faced Charlotte last year at WrestleMania, Rhea Ripley should have took that. She should have. But I think what they decided to do at that point, they were like, well, we're going to wait till fans are around to give Rhea the win. And what it did is it actually knocked Rhea down a few pegs, So seeing that same almost to the T situation happening again, I think they decided to go ahead and just pull the trigger on Bianca. That being said, Bianca has to, retain the title. I think Bianca's doing well. Bianca's still slightly green. Mm-hmm. Like if you really watch, I mean, as far as her in-ring is okay, it's actually pretty good. I don't think she's fully immersed in the character at all times. Mm-hmm. And it's weird to say that
I
because she plays her character well, but I feel like there's something else missing from that character. Mm-hmm. Something else needs to be there. Maybe she'll be a better heel.
Maybe. I don't think Montez is missing. No, he's not missing. He's
No,
a
he's
great
not.
husband.
No.
But I think it's something missing. But to touch on what you just said about Rhea Ripley, it knocked her down a couple of pegs when she lost to Charlotte at WrestleMania last year. Was it only because it was Charlotte that she was facing that's the reason why she got knocked down? Because I think if Bianca would have lost to Sasha, it would have still been okay. You know, I think it would have still been okay, and I don't think she would have, really bounced down in a way. Like, I think, in my opinion, if she didn't have this matchup with, or didn't win the Royal Rumble and didn't have this matchup with Sasha, she should have took on Charlotte, and had that rematch that she had in NXT to really prove her. Charlotte says she's the opportunity. She's the, basically the John Cena of the women's division. So that's where I go with that one. But
right, and I think you might be right. If it would have been, Rhea losing to Asuka, it may not have been so bad. But it was because it was Charlotte that it took her down so far. You know.
Yeah. You're right about that, and I think that's also another reason when Asuka was undefeated. She was undefeated, and then she lost to Charlotte at WrestleMania. Yeah. And that's why that stung even more, because no one wanted Charlotte to beat Asuka. Everyone knew Asuka was going to beat Charlotte. So
I'm afraid for Io Shirai.
See, I'm not too worried about her. But hey, I'm interested to see where it goes, though.
Yeah, I mean, I love Io Shirai. I think she's a world title woman, but I can't see any spots on the main roster that would be like where she would fit. And what I'm saying, like, Asuka fit when she came around. Io's a little different.
Is it her size?
I think some of it is. But I think the other thing is that she's a little bit more innovative. But also I think because of who you got at the top of your women's division right now, you've got Rhea Ripley, you've got Bianca Belair, you've got these big, strong, athletic women, you've got a Charlotte over this side, you've got a Bayley over this side, and again, these big, strong, athletic women, Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax, you got these. I don't know if she fits into that. I mean, she had to get out of NXT. You got Raquel Gonzalez tearing it up down there.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I just don't want her to get lost in the shuffle,
Yeah.
I don't want her to become a Kairi Sane scenario.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna move on, you guys. Speaking of Charlotte, man, Charlotte is also in the Raw Women's Championship matchup, triple threat, where it's Rhea Ripley, Charlotte versus Asuka for the title. Who you got on that one?
Man, I want Rhea. Of course, I want Rhea to retain. Why do I feel like they're going to put that thing on Charlotte? And they're going to let Charlotte pin Asuka so that she does not pin Rhea, so they can go Rhea Charlotte SummerSlam. They're going to redo Rhea Charlotte at SummerSlam this year because they're going to have fans there. And I think the fans will be into that then. But I see them putting this belt on Charlotte. And I think it's going to be intentionally to the dismay of WWE fans. They know what they've got in Charlotte. They know how fans react to Charlotte. That they've incorporated it into her promos recently. Yeah. They know exactly what the fan backlash is going to be if she takes that title. They just don't want her to pin Rhea for it. So they're gonna. That's why they threw Asuka in there, so they can have her come in, pin Asuka, keep Rhea looking strong for this SummerSlam match that they're going to have.
I like how you said that. The backlash. It's going to be the backlash.
It's going to definitely be the backlash.
I like that. Man, I think I'm going to go with Rhea. I might go with Charlotte just because you convinced me on that one right there. So, but I'm tossed up. But like I'm gonna go with Charlotte on it because you convinced me with that one. So it's Charlotte. It is. I spoke on this match earlier. We got the SmackDown tag team titles on the line. We got Dominic and the dad Rey Mysterio taking on Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode. I like the team Dominic and Rey. I think it's all I can see when I see Dominic and Rey. I think of back when Eddie Guerrero. The storyline with Rey Mysterio and stuff like that. So
yeah,
it's real cool to see him growing up now and
right.
Be competing with his dad. But like I said earlier, I'm gonna go with Dominic and Rey. I think Dolph and Roode ran their course. So I want to see Dolph and Rey. I mean, Dominic and Rey.
When you look if you look up the word transitional champion, there's gonna be a picture of Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode sitting there. They even had the nerve to give him a name.
You know, right? The Dirty Dogs.
But one of the worst names. This was worse than the Viking experience. They legit put the Dirty Dogs. That has nothing to do with any gimmicks that they have. Where did this come from? But yeah, man, you got to put the belt on Mysterio and Dominic, man. I think this is, first of all, they're missing the opportunity of teaming Dominic with Humberto Carrillo. I think having those two and maybe even throwing Angel Garza in there as kind of a Latino faction. I mean, because they all have a similar wrestling kind of acumen about them. That attitude that, I've seen Humberto wrestle heel. He's actually pretty good at that. And I would love to see maybe Dominic turning on Rey and just siding with Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo down the line. That would be awesome. But as far as today's match, I think that they're gonna put the title on Rey and Dominic, man. They'll be the first father-son tag team champions, and they'll kind of keep that belt until it's time for the Usos to take it, which the Usos will probably take it at SummerSlam.
You're right about that. That's going to be very exciting. You mentioned Humberto. Humberto was another guy along with Orange Cassidy who suffered an injury on this past week on Monday Night Raw. It looked pretty weird. I guess it was his tailbone. I'm not too sure. I'm not a doctor. So, but yeah, they stopped the match up. And it looked like they was going to have Humberto and Sheamus one-on-one at WrestleMania Backlash for the title, because I've been liking what Sheamus been doing with Humberto and some of the younger up-and-coming talents and stuff like that. It's just along with Randy Orton. They haven't, guys like Randy and Sheamus, they having fun with the young talent right now.
Yeah, they're having fun right now, man, especially Randy with this RK Bro thing, man. I think he's actually having a little fun with this.
He is. He really is. Another matchup at WrestleMania Backlash, Damian Priest versus The Miz. Now, Miz performance, well, before we even say Miz performance at WrestleMania, which was great, by the way, Miz documentary was also even great, too. The fact that he, came out and, his whole experience getting thrown out the locker room, and how The Undertaker brought him back in the locker room, and everything, man. Even the moment you was talking about from the girl, even when he won Money in the Bank, like Miz just all around is going to be a Hall of Fame superstar when it comes down to it. But his performance at Mania was dope. I love it, him and Bad Bunny and all that, of course with John Morrison. But Miz, Damian Priest, I'm going with Damian on this one. I guess Damian going to get the, the 1, 2, 3, even though his partner was Bad Bunny at WrestleMania. So I think Damian on this.
Yeah, I agree, man. Damian Priest has to get the win here. The thing that I was the most afraid of with Damian Priest teaming with Bad Bunny seems to be happening right now, where you gave him the rub with being with Bad Bunny, but Bad Bunny actually seems like he actually was very influential in getting Damian Priest the actual rub. Mm-hmm. So now it's like, okay, what do you do with Damian Priest? Like, do you have him in this perpetual feud with The Miz? If I'm WWE, I'm prepping a Damian Priest versus Sheamus for the U.S. title scenario. because you can't continue to have him facing John Morrison, then Miz, then John Morrison, then Miz, then handicap 2-on-2s, and then this. And to be honest, he's got to get away. As much as I like Damian Priest, I feel like he is one of those superstars that, because he's got the right look, he's got the right skill, but it's just he could get lost so quickly because in actuality he's kind of boring. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have that fiery speech, but he doesn't have that menacing speech. He doesn't have any of that. He's just kind of like, hey guys, I'm Damian Priest.
Mm-hmm.
When he was the Archer of Infamy in NXT, it kind of started then. He's not that, Punishment Martinez that he was when he was on the Indies, and had people like, oh, I'm gonna get my ass kicked if I mess with this guy. No, he's now kind of like a different character that I don't think it's going to gain any traction. He's got to get in a intense feud soon, and I think Sheamus is the perfect person to put him in an intense feud with.
Okay, so Damian Priest,
yep.
all the way. Okay, you guys. Next up, we got the WWE Championship matchup, triple threat matchup. Braun Strowman is going to be Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley. I don't know, like we was talking about earlier with Drew McIntyre or Bobby Lashley being a draw. Right now, I don't really see them putting the title on Braun Strowman neither. But no. I'm kind of hard on this one. But I think they may go back with Drew.
I think they are. And this is another one where you insert, and this is where it becomes so transparent. I think they're inserting Braun into the scenario so that they can have somebody to pin. Mm-hmm. And I hate Braun being the guy to get pinned because Braun is an amazingly underutilized athlete. I mean, when they put the world title on him before, it was believable.
Yeah.
It's when they started making him cartoony, like, hey kids, I'm Braun. That's when you have the problem. Keep your badass characters badass, and you won't have to worry about whether or not I need to take the title off of this particular character. But saying that to say, yeah, I think they're gonna put it back on Drew. They just have to. He can't pin Bobby, so they're gonna have him pin Braun, and then that'll be an insta feud right there. And then I don't know what they're gonna do with Lashley at that point. That may be the interest for some. Lashley doesn't need the title. If he faces Brock Lesnar at the pay-per-view, and they started planting seeds for that a couple of weeks ago, he doesn't need the title for that. So I'd be interested in seeing what they do with that.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm really I want to see, Brock versus Lashley, but I want Lashley to kind of like hold. Even though I picked Drew on this one, though, I want Lashley to at least be champion, at least for 3 months.
It would be nice to see him go into SummerSlam. It would be awesome to see him go into SummerSlam as champion, and then have him face Lesnar at SummerSlam. I think that would be the program I would want to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm interested to see where that goes, but I picked Drew on this one, walking away with the WWE Championship. And also, you guys, the Tribal Chief, you guys, the Universal Champion against Cesaro. And I don't even think there's really an answer. I'm going with the Tribal Chief. You got to acknowledge him, man. He's the head of the table. He's on fire. He's doing his thing. So the Tribal Chief all the way.
Yeah, you got to go with Roman Reigns at this point, man. They're doing Roman Reigns right. Mm-hmm. They're actually setting him up to where he's a dominant force, and, he's got his minions, but he's a dominant force all to his own. I love the aspect of having Paul Heyman there. Is almost like, he's almost like the security blanket for Roman Reigns. Roman can do it himself, but if there's ever a moment where you need Paul to step in and really like put some juice on something, he's there to do it, man. That whole gimmick, that whole setup is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Real quick, what you were just saying, that Paul Heyman, he could do it himself. that's interesting because I would like to see if, what would have happened if this would have go down the way it's going down, but without Paul Heyman.
Right.
Will this have any influence how Roman Reigns worked if Paul Heyman wasn't in the picture? That's kind of like hard to see. But I mean, what he's doing right now is not really hard to see because he's doing the damn thing. He's doing the damn thing. And who could beat him? If it ain't Cesaro, who could beat him? WWE had a list of people people that can beat Roman Reigns for a title. Excuse me, Seth Rollins, Walter, Jimmy Uso, The Rock, so many people, but who would be the right person? And obviously it's not going to be SummerSlam. It's probably going to be WrestleMania next year, but who would be the right person to beat Roman?
So you have to let it go all the way through WrestleMania next year. You have to get it. And they hinted at The Rock for SummerSlam. I think personally, they have to have, if you pull the trigger on The Rock at Survivor Series or at SummerSlam, and you have Roman Reigns beat The Rock, because you have to have him beat him. You got to have Roman Reigns go over. Mm-hmm. That sets up that WrestleMania match next year. Whoever they call up for it is being even bigger, and it's going to be. I don't think it's somebody on the roster. I really don't. I think it's going to be somebody outside of the roster right now, whether it be on NXT or maybe even from outside. You gotta love what they're doing with Roman Reigns, man. And I want to see. He's definitely going to keep it at this one, but I want to see what they're going to do with him at SummerSlam.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. They said they may have SummerSlam at Madison Square Garden. So that would be a great, matchup if, that was to take place. But most definitely, if it's someone that's going to beat him, it got to be someone from NXT, maybe NXT UK, someone you may have heard of. It can't be no one like, how Brock ended the Undertaker streak. I don't, that was a great moment in history, but I think it should have been someone younger who we still have to this day right now that can still brag about it, like Jericho did when he beat Austin and Rock in the same night. You feel me? He give him something to talk about. So with Brock, now he's somewhere $1 million, not giving a fuck about what's going on right now. So it's just
exactly. I mean, who do you? That asks the question: who do you have that you can elevate? If you got 6 months to elevate somebody from NXT. Who do you pick to elevate to main event status? Because even if you look at NXT, outside of Karrion Kross and outside of Finn Balor, who would make a believable foil for the Tribal Chief? I mean,
that's a really good question.
Kyle O'Reilly?
I mean, not to laugh like that, but that's a really good question because I was talking about that last week on the podcast. NXT need star power, and I don't think they have that star power that a guy coming up from there can maybe transition over to the main roster to be believable to beat Roman Reigns. That if it is, I don't know, maybe Karrion Kross, like you said, or Walter. Could be something like that like that's the only thing that I can see. But the main reason I'm pretty sure how he's going to lose the title, regardless of who he takes on, is most likely it's going to be because it's cousins.
Yeah, I mean, now there's one other possibility out there right now, and there's two other possibilities. One is Keith Lee, and he's not from NXT, but I'm bringing that up because he's been off TV for a while. This is the perfect opportunity to restart Keith Lee and kind of do it right because he had got into such a convoluted thing on Raw. Bring him back to SmackDown, have him dominate, and get himself up to that spot because you got too many monsters on Raw as it is. We're not even talking about Theo Madden and Dominic Dijakovic. I can't even say Dijakovic just now. But Dijakovic and Madden, you're not even talking about them. You got Lashley, you got all these other guys. Man, put Keith Lee over there on SmackDown It seems like that's his home anyway. It seems like where he needs to be. Let him grow back the piece of beard that he had to, and let him just do his thing. Have you been hearing the rumors about Dean Ambrose possibly coming back after his contract is up at the end of the year?
No, I did not hear that. That would be very interesting because last week on SmackDown, that was the first interaction that Seth and Roman has had in a long time.
Yeah.
So that was pretty intense. So no, I did not hear that, but that would be interesting. You know, if that's true, he must not be getting a challenge no more in AEW, I guess.
Yeah, and then of course there's all that's a lot of hearsay stuff too. But also thinking about the fact that, like you just said, hey, Seth could possibly be that guy. You know, I mean, I don't want to see a babyface Seth again. I just don't. Yeah. But maybe if you could change that character to be, you know, a lovable asshole, maybe that works.
A lovable asshole.
You know?
Hey, man, that's cool. That's cool. Hey, but WrestleMania Backlash coming up this Sunday. It's going to be very interesting to see what goes down, of course. Can't wait for the fans to come back. And yo, my man, Gator Live, man, it's been an awesome time chopping it up with you, man. From everything wrestling, man, this week on the podcast. Before you go, man, any shout-outs, any questions you have for me, anything you'd like to say?
Oh, man, I just want to say, man, I love the fact that we're going to be doing this thing for the month of May. I am excited about it because I get to talk wrestling, and I don't get to do that on any other podcast that I do. You know, speaking of, always, guys, come check out the Down 5 podcast. Subscribe to it on YouTube. Just type in Down and the number 5 and then put podcast, and we'll be found on there. We stream live on Saturdays. And then, of course, Dope Discussions with Erica. Over 2,000 subscribers on YouTube right now. Come join the virtual congregation on there, man. Just make sure you just type in Dope Discussions with Erica. Subscribe, click the like button, click the notification bell whenever you get the chance, man. 2 great shows, and they're so different than what we're doing right now, which is talking pro wrestling. We're talking about hitting folks today. So, hey, look. Make sure that you're also hitting that notification bell on the 1130 podcast, because this one right here is something you want to make sure that you're tuned into whenever this comes on air.
Hey, man, that's what's up. That's what's up, you guys. Gator ain't going nowhere, man. He's going to be joining me back here next week. And the week after that, man, it's going to be fun. Down 5 podcast. You guys make sure you go subscribe, go listen, and also the Dope Discussions with Erica. You guys, man, it's been an awesome time joining you this week on the podcast, and also with my man Gator. Thank you, Gator, man, for joining me here on the podcast this week, you guys. Yo, man, it's been an exciting episode, man. I'm about to head on out of here, man. I appreciate you, Gator, man, for joining me.
Hey, no problem. I appreciate being here, man. Look, looking forward to Backlash, WrestleMania Backlash this Sunday.
Hey, man, that's what's up, man. Gator, man, thank you for joining me, man. And yo, you guys, man, I'm about to head on out of here with a few words, you guys. But Gator, thank you, man, for joining me.
Hey, no problem, man. See y'all later.
Yo, my man Gator Live, man. Stopping past here on the 1130 podcast. Talk pro wrestling, you guys, as a co-host this week, you guys, and also a guest, man. You know, didn't have a guest or, you know, another guest this week, but my man Gator Live, of course, is going to be the co-host along with me here on the 1130 podcast, Talk Pro Wrestling, for the month of May. I was supposed to have him on last week, you guys, but we getting it in, man. We getting it in. It's going to be fun, man. We have some great topics to chat on, man. Some trending topics, man, as far as everything with the Booker T documentary, man, and everything, man. I remember watching that when I was, like 12 years old. Like I told my man Gator, WrestleMania 19 been one of my favorite pay-per-views, and just not understanding why Booker T didn't win, because I was like, man, like, really? You know, that whole rivalry, him being thrown over the Rock, over the top rope in the Battle Royal, and the Rock face. We want to talk about fans or just expressions, the Rock expression, you know, when he got thrown over the top rope. And I think the Hurricane helped him in some type of way because, you know, the Hamburglar, they beef or whatnot. But yeah, man, like, yo, man, this was an awesome show. This was an awesome show. We got WrestleMania, of course, WrestleMania Backlash. Don't nobody calling it WrestleMania Backlash and just straight up Backlash. But we got that coming up this Sunday with a plethora of matches going down, championship matches. Yo, man, I'm excited. I'm really excited. And also, like I said, Gator Live is going to be joining me back here for the 1130 podcast, Talk Pro Wrestling. Next week, you dig, man? Here on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, here on YouTube, wherever you're listening to your podcasts or getting the 1130 podcast, Talk Pro Wrestling. So, yo, man, it's going to be great, man. It's going to be great. You heard Gator, man. Go subscribe to the Dope Discussions with Erica podcast. They got over 2,000 subscribers already on YouTube, man. They was going live on social media, well, Facebook. Now, they doing their thing on YouTube, man. I love it. I had Erica on the main podcast over on EB Radio. That was dope, man. So shout out to both of them. Shout out to the Dope Down 5 podcast. You guys also go subscribe and go listen, man. So yeah, that is going to be cool. But you guys, man, before I go, y'all already know what time it is. Don't forget to follow the 1130 podcast on all social media platforms. Follow me on Twitter at Dre on Wheels. Follow me on Instagram at the 1130 podcast. Like the 1130 podcast on Facebook. Subscribe. Yes, subscribe to the 1130 podcast on YouTube. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you don't miss an episode. And also, you guys, the 1130 podcast, Talk Pro Wrestling, each and every Friday, you guys, here on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, you guys. So join me while I interview some of your favorite independent referees, ring announcers, you name it. All wrestling, you guys. And also, if you would like to be a guest here on the podcast, email me. That's the 1130podcast at gmail.com. The 1130podcast at gmail.com. Man, what an episode. What an episode. Been great, man. You've been great. Been great. It's Friday, you guys. Have a great weekend. I'll see you guys next week. And don't forget, you guys, to tune in to the 1130 podcast this Wednesday on EB Radio and YouTube. Yo, I'm out of here. Yo, I'll see you guys next week. My man Gator will be here too, you guys. It's your man Dre, a.k.a. Dre on Wheels, and I'm out.
I'm from the city, DC, that's where I'm from. 1130 podcast, Dre on Wheels, he is the one. Let's get it, yeah. Who with me? Let's get it, yeah. No, with me, yeah. I'm from the city, DC, that's where I'm from. Let's get it. 1130 podcast, Dre on Wheels, he is the one.
He the one, nigga. So Breeze, baby. He the one.
With me,
So Breeze, baby.
let's get it. You with me. Yeah, they gon' hate, but they ain't stopping this. I'ma keep making hits. Dre and Wheels, you know it ain't no copying. Was you sitting there on the carpet with us? Yeah, we knew we had some options. We blessed. We ain't got